Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. No player transactions in the past 2 weeks, which means it was a good vacation, but a lot of little bit of news releases here and there, just enough to make a video and just get everyone up to date, get myself up to date. I have some points to talk about each of these, some of them more interesting than others, but let's just get into it. We'll start with the promotions. The Tucson Roadrunners were looking for a new head coach because Jay Verity joined the Detroit Red Wings. I thought Bill Armstrong would bring in a guy that, thinks like him or is one of those Bill Armstrong type guys, because since Bill Armstrong has come into the organization, he teared down everything, hired good people, got smart people across the league, and they're building something here. And the fact that he promoted Steve Potvin, who was already an assistant coach for Tucson, who's been with the Roadrunners since like 2016, 2017. He's a long-standing member of the organization. He also head coached the Roadrunners in the shortened 21 season when Verity was put on the bench with Rick Tocchet for the Coyotes in that shortened season as well. So Potvin's got experience. They went for the affordable choice, but maybe it's a good choice. He's looked at as a good development coach. He worked really closely with Connor Garland. And in Craig Morgan's article about Potvin, Garland had some really nice things to say about Potvin. Potvin was always there for Garland at any hour of the day, even though he had to drive 2 hours to work in Tucson. He worked with Garland on his shot, and Garland had a lot of praise for Potvin. So even though it is a cheaper, affordable option, it seems like Bill Armstrong really likes Potvin, and it bodes well, because usually any John Chychrun hire or any personnel under that regime of John Chychrun, Bill Armstrong has cleaned house. But for this one, he kept Potvin, really liked him, had some great words for Steve. So hopefully he does well with the Roadrunners. I really need the Roadrunners to finish top three in their division, make it back to the playoffs. They used to be pretty good. A really good team. They won the Pacific Division Championships when, COVID happened, but they haven't sniffed like top two, top three in the division since, mostly due to the fact that the Coyotes take all their players due to all the injuries. Also, Lee Stempniak was promoted recently, a couple days ago. He was hired as a data analyst for the Coyotes 2 years ago, but part-time he worked in player development. He worked with some under-the-radar prospects that haven't really made the jump yet. And, I'm kind of hoping some of these guys get some looks with the Roadrunners. These guys are Sam Lipkin, Mannix Landry, Ilya Fedotov, and John Farinacci, who's been a prospect that we don't hear as much, but he's been with the organization for a long time. He was a 2019 third-round draft pick by John Chychrun, another rare draft pick by Chychrun, still in the organization, along with Michelli and Yannick. Obviously Hayden and some others. It's not rare. It's not rare at all. But, Farinacci plays in the NCAA. He's still not signed to an entry-level contract, which is why we don't see him around the Coyotes, around the Roadrunners. He's still in college. I think this might be his last year, or the Coyotes have to sign him. Not really sure about that. But it's good that Stempniak worked with player development for those under-the-radar type prospects, and Stempniak played for like 20 teams in his NHL career, so he knows a thing or two about playing in different systems and acclimating yourself to different climates and different hockey organizations. And everywhere Stempniak went, it seemed to go well for him. He always used to be a solid third, second line guy, and just faded into obscurity due to all those trade deadline moves for Lee Stempniak. And then we go on to Lamoureux. He signed his entry-level contract, not playing in the NCAA, which is why he could sign an NHL contract and still play in his minor league. I believe either the QMHL, I'm pretty sure it's QMHL, QMJHL, however you want to say it. But it's good he signed the contract. We saw last season Janis Moser, who just got drafted in the 2021 summer, immediately was put on the team due to all the injuries. And he really made an impact on the team. I love Moser. Can't wait to see the step he takes this year. So Lamoureux, he signed his contract, which means, the Coyotes could play him. But I don't expect, Lamoureux to make an appearance this season. He's more of a long-term project, which we saw with Pierre-Olivier Joseph and Victor Soderstrom. We'll talk about Joseph a bit later. Hopefully Victor Soderstrom takes the next step. I have said previously that he's probably going to be on Tucson for the full season and just lead that team in the power play, penalty kill, and just be a point-producing defenseman and number one defenseman for the Roadrunners. I think the Coyotes acquired too many defensemen, not good defensemen, but still some NHL defensive bodies that kind of took away the spot for Soderstrom. We'll move on. Phil Kessel finally signed with the team with Vegas, another desert team, $1.5 million for 1 year. A huge step back from he was getting $6 or $7 million. Toronto was retaining some money. Pittsburgh was retaining some money. So, one of his last contracts of his career, $1.5 million. His shot is completely gone. His deceptiveness in his shooting has disappeared, evaporated. But he's still a pretty average playmaker and an average passer. I mean, he put up 52 points last season playing with players that, other NHL teams wouldn't even dare to ice. So he had 8 goals, 44 assists last season. His tenure with the Coyotes was a mixed bag. I never wanted him on the team. Thought it wasn't a good move. Thankfully, the trade didn't blow up in our face. Like I mentioned before, we traded Joseph and Galchenyuk for Kessel. And, Galchenyuk moved immediately to, Minnesota, spent some time in Ottawa and Toronto, and then made his way back to the Coyotes. And he's still unsigned right now. Joseph, on the other hand, he's still not an NHL defenseman. I think he's only played 20 NHL games in the past 2 years. At most, his ceiling, it's looking like a third-pairing defenseman for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So, we moved on quickly from Joseph, but, he's still taking a really long time in a different organization. I wish Kessel's tenure was a bit better. He came in and he was immediately playing with an injury in his first season. It was a very lackluster first season with the Coyotes, and then the shortened season, he did really well. He cracked 20 goals, and then this past season, the wheels started to fall off. His speed isn't there. Like I mentioned before, his shot isn't there, but he could pass a puck, has good vision, and, defensively, maybe a liability, but he worked on it a little bit more as his time in Arizona continued. Moving on to another player, I also want to mention that Phil Kessel joins Adin Hill in Vegas. Yes, Adin Hill already got traded. Bill Armstrong traded Hill for a second-round pick who became Julian Lutz. And we just drafted him a couple months ago, maybe a month ago. He's a German player. Some Germans fans are kind of positive about Lutz. We'll see what happens with Lutz. But, the fact that Armstrong traded Hill for a second-round pick, and then 10 months later, he's traded for a fourth-round pick to Vegas. Other former Coyotes that were in that exodus, scenario and time last year. Dvorak's in trade rumors since the trade deadline. And, Garland was also in some Vancouver trade rumors. They have too many forwards, too many streaky forwards. Maybe they want to have a different look, trade Garland maybe. So, the players that Bill Armstrong moved on from and acquired some great, assets back for those players are kind of either on the move already or they're on the trading block. So it's surprising, but, thankfully Bill Armstrong won some of those trades, if not all those trades. And then Chychrun, the rumors continue. It was awful. The moment I left, there was already rumors going hard with the Ottawa Senators. The asking price is still 2 first-round picks and a top prospect and maybe a retained salary on the way back. They're looking at Zaitsev on the way back to help out Ottawa. What I like about these Chychrun rumors, it started with LA, then it went to Columbus, now it's on Ottawa. We'll see what happens if he does get traded, but these are teams who I would want Chychrun to get traded to because they're not bona fide elite contending teams just yet. So there is a high probability, a team like LA, Columbus, Ottawa, an injury or maybe some other teams in the division play better than them. They could miss the playoffs. It's a possibility, but more of a possibility as opposed to Chychrun being traded to the Leafs or Florida or Carolina. Ottawa, Columbus, LA, those are teams that are just on the bubble, on the cusp of being consistent playoff teams, if Columbus and Ottawa are even that. But, they both added some good pieces this summer. So, I want Chychrun, if he is traded. I hope he doesn't get traded soon. But if he does get traded, it's a team that has a chance to miss the playoffs, get another high round pick. 2 of those, actually. And then those teams have some really good young players who can't really fit onto the team because those teams are filled with young guys. So those are prime targets to trade Chychrun to. You get some good value in those picks and the top prospect. It's not like Toronto has great prospects that you could trade Chychrun for. All their good players are on the team already and making an impact already. And finally, that's Josh Doan, not Shane Doan. Josh Doan named captain for ASU, so we will play at ASU Arena, just not for the Coyotes. He'll play for the Sun Devils. He is on an NCAA contract, which is why, you won't see him get called up in this season or not around the team as much because his rights are with the NCAA. And it's harder for those players to make the jump to the Coyotes and be around the media and play scrimmages and all that. Just like I mentioned, Farinacci hasn't been around the Coyotes as much. You rarely hear him in the news. Logan Cooley is going to be exactly like Doan. He's in the NCAA. You won't see him around as much. You won't hear about him as opposed to like Connor Geeky, who already signed his entry-level contract. Gunther already signed his contract. Lamoureux already signed his contract. So you'll see them around more with the team, practicing with the team, maybe get a showcase for 9 games, not Lamoureux, but they have the potential and the availability to play for the Coyotes, whereas NCAA players don't get that opportunity. If they sign an NHL contract, their relationship with the NCAA is finished, which is why they decide to stay a year or 2 in college, and that's good for them. It's good for Doan to be named captain. What I want out of Doan is to be a good player. I don't want him to just be drafted and on the Coyotes because of his last name. I actually want him to be a good player, and the fact that another organization named him captain shows he's got that leadership capabilities, and he's also a good hockey player and can lead the team. So hopefully he does some damage there, gain some confidence, and maybe next year we'll see him sign his entry-level contract for the Coyotes. Still waiting on the Barrett Hayton contract. Not sure what the holdup is there. It's already September. We're getting into the rookie tournament and training camps in about 2 weeks. So hopefully things get done. Hopefully both parties still like each other, and we'll see what happens. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.